Long, long ago, life was just hunky-dory. A group of people made peace, a cinematic glory. Now they're getting back together, not in person, only virtually, but it's a start. They're reunited apart.
Hello and welcome to episode 2. Yeah, episode 2! Yes! Well, it's week something of quarantine, and we still have no choice but to be reunited apart. A show that brings together some of our favorite casts and creative teams from some of our favorite movies, all from the safety of their own individual homes, either for health concerns or because they would rather not share physical contact with each other. I'm still Josh Gad. Now, before we bring on today's guest, I would love to talk about a very special charity. Project Hope has already delivered millions of masks and other protective equipment to health workers at the forefront of this pandemic globally.
You can either donate below if you're using a mobile device, or if you're using a desktop, click right over there.
We are all reunited apart, but the only way to get through this is if we can all come together. So please, if you can, donate today. One particular movie from 1985 has managed to capture our hearts and imaginations perhaps more than any other. It's a film that I have seen no less than 350 times over and over and over and over again during the course of my 39 years on this, our planet Earth. It's a film that has found its way on some of the best films of all time lists. It's a movie that has been described by many of today's biggest filmmakers and entertainers as absolutely perfect. And it's a movie that remains timeless despite being very much all about time. Today, we are going to escape the present by reuniting to discuss the past and by taking a little trip back to the future.
Christopher Lloyd, it's so good to see you.
Thanks. I loved you in Jumanji.
That's not me, but thank you.
Right. Well, so what can I do for you? As long as it's not related in any way to Back to the Future.
No. I wanted to chat about Taxi.
Great. Ask away.
How was Taxi?
Fabulous cast, writers.
Right, good. Writers are good. Cast is good. All that's nice. Well, what do you think your character from Taxi's position might be on, I don't know, time travel? Was he pro or against, do you think?
Pro?
Say, hypothetically, this character hit his head on a toilet seat and created something that could allow him to travel through time, maybe vis-a-vis a 1980s car. I don't know, pick a brand, a DeLorean maybe.
Josh.
No, not you. Him, this guy from Taxi.
You don't even know the character's name, do you?
Emmett?
You've never seen Taxi, have you?
Well, I've never not seen it.
What do you want me to do for you?
I need you to help me find a certain rock and roll icon who was ahead of his time. So perhaps we just push this little interview up to 88 miles per hour and take a walk down memory lane. Or should I say, memory road.
Roads. Where we're going, we don't need roads.
I cannot believe I'm about to say these words. Please welcome Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd, Marty McFly, and Doc Brown. Can you guys still see me? Because I'm floating above my body right now.
That's a crotch shot.
When is the last time you saw Chris?
Chris is a great supporter of our foundation, and he's just been unbelievable. And they came to our poker night, And he was great because he got besieged by losing poker players who were drunk and they lost all their money and they just wanted to love up Chris and feel better about themselves.
I'm a little sad that I wasn't invited to this poker night, but it's okay.
You just got on the list. It just happened just now.
Okay, done. Now, what is it about the relationship between Marty McFly and Doc Brown that seems to connect with so many people as they watch this film over and over again?
He feels accepted with the Doc and just a friendship.
Doc's a mentor. I think Marty is intrigued by the weird stuff I do with the clocks and the incredible sound system.
I'm still, by the way, searching on eBay for that amplifier. I need that in my life. Let's talk for a second about some of the other casts. Tell me, for instance, Michael, about working with your incredible screen mom.
This is amazing. And as an actress, she's really responsive. She's really reactive to whatever you do. She'll go wherever you want to go, and then she'll take you places you didn't know you were going to go.
Without the following guests, there would be no reason to try to change the past before going back to the future. Please welcome Marty McFly's mother, Leah Thompson. Leah!
Oh my gosh! I miss you guys.
Yes, you too.
Yeah, do you have any idea the first time you put on the Rains costume and wig that you would end up having to talk to me, Michael, and Chris on something called Zoom 35 years later during a pandemic?
No. And I didn't really have any idea that this movie would still have people that want to talk about it. That's so incredible.
So I'm curious, Leah, which version of Michael's character do you relate to the most? Marty McFly, Calvin Klein, or Clint Eastwood?
Marty McFly, I'd have to say. You know, he's my son.
In these three films, there's actually very few scenes that the three of you do together, right? I remember the scene in Hill Valley High School when, Leah, you come sauntering past Chris, and he does that amazing wide-eyed look that only Christopher Lloyd can do. Other than that, there's only one scene I looked up in the entire franchise where the three of you actually have dialogue together. Do any of you remember what scene that is?
I do.
Yeah.
It's the garage scene.
Yeah, when you come into the garage, yeah.
And the weird thing is that Chris and I did work together for years and years, and we never had any lines to each other.
Okay, so on Reunited Apart, I like to let you guys ask each other questions, which allows me to sit back and fangirl like my audience. So if you guys don't mind, I've prepared a question for each of you. So Michael, why don't we start with you? You have a question for Leah.
What was most fun for you to play? My broken mother, my successful mother, my drunk mother, my elderly mother, my school stalker mother, or first generation Irish frontier immigrant ancestor?
Well, that's hard because they were all so great.
You were great in all of them. You were fantastic in every one of them.
Insane.
You did really crazy good.
I think the young Lorraine, I mean, I played her longer and she was completely insane. It's a tie between that and the drunk mom. I like the drunk mom.
That's great.
You were the one who wanted me to get these things.
The drunk mom. Michael, I have to tell you, you make a really attractive young lady as your own daughter in that film.
Well, it's part of my life I don't want to talk about.
Dad, is for you.
They put me in the dragon. I look like Reba McEntire.
It's this that gets me. It's this that makes me so happy. Mom, is that you? That's my all-time favorite line reading.
Mom, is that you?
Fun fact, I still have that blonde wig in case you want it back.
Oh,
I
nice.
have your wig.
Cool. Well, we'll make arrangements.
Michael, how often do you turn on the news at night and say to yourself, this is heavy?
A lot.
Of course, no Back to the Future reunion would be complete without some of our favorite moments being brought back to life by this iconic trio.
But before we do, I feel like it would be unfair to indulge my childhood fantasy without the folks responsible for bringing that fantasy to life.
So with us now, our writer Bob Gale and writer-director Robert Zemeckis. Bob Zemeckis!
The gay
Bob Gale!
Hey, gang!
Now, this is, to borrow an expression from Michael, this is heavy, seeing all of you on one screen right now. What is it like seeing this group back together again?
Feels like it was just yesterday.
It's always great to see everybody, and
this is new to see everybody like this.
Bob Z, I have to ask you, I'm so incredibly jealous of what I see behind you right now. Is that the original hoverboard?
I moved some props in for the show. I got to tell you, these are the only props from the movie that I have.
Now, Bob Z and Bob G, I'm going to have the cast read through some of the most iconic lines from the trilogy. Do you guys have any tips for them before we go?
Faster is funnier.
All right, we're going to start with Michael and Chris.
This is more serious than I thought. Apparently, your mother is amorously infatuated with you instead of your father.
Well, wait a minute, Doc. Are you trying to tell me that my mother has the hots for me?
Precisely.
Well, this is heavy.
There's that word again, heavy. Why are things so heavy in the future? Is there some problem with the Earth's gravitational pull or something?
Yes! Next up, Michael and Leah, would you please bring us back to Lorraine's teenage bedroom?
They're there now. You've been asleep for almost 9 hours.
A horrible nightmare. I dreamed that I went back in time. It was terrible.
Well, you're safe and sound now. Back in good old 1955.
1955? I scared my dog.
I feel genuinely like I just died and went to heaven. All right, I'm going to get greedy here. Leah, would you do me the honor of allowing me to be your George McFly?
Oh my gosh, of course, darling.
Those are big shoes to fill, I'm telling you right now.
I'm like sweating. I'm so nervous about this, stepping in, especially for like Bob Zemeckis and Bob Gale.
Let's do some warm-ups.
We got this. All right, here's my diary. Oh, Lorraine, my density has brought me to you.
What?
What I meant to say was...
Wait a minute. Don't I know you from somewhere?
Yes. I'm George McFly. I'm your density. I mean, your destiny.
Oh.
Did I acquit myself? Was it all right?
I felt it, baby. I'm sweating.
That was very good.
All right, and finally, let's end with Michael and Chris. Marty has gone back to 1985. The Marty that came from alternate 1985 suddenly shows up from down the street and runs to the unsuspecting 1955 Doc.
Doc, please, Marty.
No, it can't be. I just sent you back to the future.
I know you did send me back to the future, but I'm back from the future.
Great Scott!
All of you, incredible. Now, one of my favorite moments in the entire trilogy is actually in the third movie when you guys give Doc Brown finally a love interest of his own, even though it alters the course of Hill Valley history, obviously. Thank goodness we lost Clara Ravine, because otherwise the franchise wouldn't have given us the amazing Mary Steenburgen.
Oh, great.
Mary! Reunited apart!
All right.
Hi, nice to see you.
You too.
Technically, it's been 135 years since you all worked together.
Yes, it was just a lovely job. And it was cool to be in a Western because I'm the daughter of a freight train conductor. So the whole train thing was fabulous.
I have to ask, that train sequence really is one of the greatest set pieces in I think, the trilogy. How did you accomplish it without any digital capabilities at the time?
That scene was one of the most terrifying days when I had both Chris and Michael galloping on horses between a speeding train and a camera car. I couldn't wait for that day to be over. We were doing things like hanging an actress literally off of a steam engine. You had to do things like that.
No, wait a second. Wait a second. Mary, you hung off of a moving train?
I actually rode on my horse up to the back of the train and touched it. And then Jennifer, my stunt double, did the transfer.
I'm so happy you all survived the making of the Back to the Future films. Chris, you're looking like the Godfather right now.
This is my soul. Elyssa forbids me to wear in public, but occasionally around the house.
The third film has, I think, some tremendous iconic moments. but the second film does too. And one of my favorite lines of dialogue from the second film is when Doc looks at Marty, and Chris, forgive me for the impression, but he says, "It's your kids, Marty. Something's got to be done about your kids," which is, I guess, like the Yiddish interpretation of Doc Brown. So who better to discuss those kids than Marty's on-screen girlfriend and future Mrs. McFly? Here with us now is Elizabeth Shue.
Hi.
Whoa. Oh, you look great.
This is making me so happy. One of my favorite scenes in the entire trilogy is when you, Lisa, see old Jennifer walking into the house in 2015. Do you remember what you say and what you do with your hands?
I do. I say, "I'm old," right? And I think I went like this. "I'm old."
Now, part of the incredible legacy of this film and all three films is the remarkable soundtrack and one of the greatest scores, in my opinion, of all time. Now, of course, none of that would have been accomplished without writer, singer-songwriter Huey Lewis and composer Alan Silvestri. So we welcome them to Reunited Apart right now.
Hi, that's so cool.
Hi, everybody. Wow, look at everybody. It's Back to the Future family.
Huey, how did the power of love come into existence and become one of the greatest rock anthems ever?
Well, Bob and Bob and Neil and Stephen, we had a meeting, and they said we'd written this film, and this character, Marty McFly's favorite band, would be Huey Lewis and the News, and how would we like to write a song for the film? And I said I was flattered, but never had really written for film before and didn't know really what that meant. And I didn't fancy writing a song called Back to the Future. And they said, no, you can call it whatever you want. So I said, well, the next thing we write, we'll just, we'll send down. And it was Power of Love.
It's amazing. And speaking of amazing, Alan, how does one go about writing one of the most iconic scores ever? What inspired you to do the music for Back to the Future?
Well, I think, it had a lot to do with Robert Zemeckis' body language. He had this way of communicating size and scope, and it wasn't just in the images. He would actually stand in front of me like this and say, "That's what it has to sound like."
Bob Z, do you remember hearing for the first time, bum, 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 ba-da-dum, bum, bum, bum?
It was one of the great moments of being on the scoring stage to hear Al's score for that movie. It was just great. It was everything that we had hoped for.
All right, I would now love to play a game of Back to the Future trivia with you all, but I can see how weary you are of me asking you questions. So I've decided to bring in a Back to the Future super fan, if you don't mind. I'm not quite sure what the J's stand for, but ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the ultimate Back to the Future fan, Mr. J.J. Abrams.
Hey, JJ!
JJ!
Hello. The only reason that I'm here is because, Josh, you know what a fan I am of these movies. So I thank you for letting me join the fun.
JJ, before we started, you were telling me about the first time you saw Back to the Future. How old were you?
I was 18 or something, but I remember seeing it, and I remember never wanting to not see it. It's a perfect movie. It's absolutely unbelievably brilliant. And I actually have a question. What is the Rick and Morty? How does one live with Rick and Morty? What is the connection? I don't understand. There's a thing clearly, but I think you understand what I'm asking.
I've never seen it.
Really? Really? That's amazing.
Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
I had a notion that to combine Rick and Morty and Doc and Marty, that they each go on some kind of space ride into another zone, galaxy, whatever, and that they collide somehow on the same meteor or something, and you got all four of them there. And then what do? Bob?
Then, Chris, I have another drink of whatever you're drinking.
JJ, shoot.
What was the alternate title for the film suggested by a Universal executive during production?
Spaceman from Pluto?
That's it.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Bob's, explain this.
The CEO of MCA, he hated the title Back to the Future. Hated it. He always said, it doesn't make any sense. What does this mean?
Yeah, but the reason he really hated it is because he said, movies with the word future in the title never make any money.
He had all kinds of interesting theories like that. And one day we get this memo and it says, I've come up with the perfect title for this movie, Spaceman from Pluto, and here are some changes in the script that you can make to reflect the title. And so Bob and I went to Stephen and we said, holy shit, what do we do? And he turned to his assistant and he said, let's send Sid a memo. Dear Sid, thank you for your most humorous memo of November 14th. We all got a big laugh out of it. Keep them coming. We knew that Sid would be too embarrassed to admit that he was serious, and we never heard about it again.
Wow.
I'm fascinated with the sort of core idea, which I think was like, what if you met your mother when she was your age, in your high school? Can you just talk for a minute about kind of how the thing came to you guys?
Bob and I had struggled with a time travel movie for a long time. And I was back at my hometown of St. Louis, Missouri, visiting my folks, and I discovered my dad's high school yearbook in the basement, which I'd never seen. And I discovered that my dad had been the president of his graduating class. And I'm looking at this picture of my very straight, sober-looking father, and I thought to myself, would I have been friends with my dad if I'd gone to high school with him? When I came back to California, I told this to Bob Z, and he said, yeah, that's such a great idea. What if your mom went to the same high school? And we just got going.
The thing that blows my mind about it, not just that the story is so great, the tone of the movie is so unbelievable. The fact that there's a moment when, Chris, you literally turn to the camera, point at the camera, and say, Back to the Future.
We're sending you back to the future.
Bob and Bob have said there's never going to be another Back to the Future sequel, which I hope is a lie. If hypothetically they were, I would love to hear what you would pitch for Marty and Doc to travel back to and why.
I'd like it to go back to like January where they could warn us about the coronavirus.
Well, it would have to be that Doc and Marty find out that we're thinking about making another Back to the Future movie. They come back to stop us from doing such a crazy thing.
If I had an idea that I could have pitched to Bob with a straight face, we would have made it. I have no answer to that. I have no answer to that question.
I do want to just bring up this one thing which blows my mind, which is how long it was from the day the film wrapped until the day it was released. This is insane.
It was 9.5 weeks.
9.5 weeks?
All it takes is money.
They released Power of Love as a single, like when the movie wrapped, because it was, as I recall, the song was #1 when the movie was released, I think.
This is back in the old days, but I remember Neil came to me when the song came out, and he said, guys, they've released Power of Love in heavy rotation. He said it's in heavy rotation. That was like, oh, are you kidding? We're in heavy rotation? That's fantastic.
I'm so excited to see the musical, you guys.
It is so great, but it's like a companion to the movie.
I've been hearing a lot about this Back to the Future, the musical. But since we can't go to the theater, I was thinking maybe there's a way that Reunited Apart can bring Back to the Future, the musical, into your homes. This is something we all need desperately in our lives right now. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the power of love.
Change your hawk to a little white dove. More than a feeling, that's the power of love. You don't take money, don't take fame, don't need no credit card to ride this train. It's strong and it's sudden and it's cruel sometimes, but it might just save your life. That's the power of love. That's the power.
brought so much joy to my heart today. Thank you all for doing this on behalf of Project Hope. I hope that everybody who watched today will please donate below. It is so important that we help our first responders right now.
Thank you. You're doing a fantastic job.
The future is what you make of it. And thank you for keeping us safe.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I love you guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
You feel the power of love. You feel the power of love.
Hello? Hello, do you see me? Claudia Wells? I can't see you. Can you see me? This is the third Zoom meeting I've missed. I don't understand. Darn it, I wanted to meet Elizabeth Shue and see everybody. Okay, so if you can see me, I just wanted to tell you thank you to the first responders and to everyone who's doing so much to help people. And you know, it's like Doc Brown always said, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
Hey guys, I just went back to the future to change clothes. Subscribe. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun.